This is the Fit Femmes movement. Have you felt overwhelmed with your fitness journey and feel like you just want to give up? Are you a busy female professional or entrepreneur looking for weight loss and self-care solutions that you can squeeze into your hectic schedule? Then you're in the right place. Let's get inspired to make fitness and healthy living improve rather than consume your life. Together, we'll take major strides towards a happier, healthier, even wealthier you. I'm Julia Hickman, your host and coach.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be back here with my live series. This is also going to be shared on my podcast, the Fit Femmes movement. Can't wait to tell you more about my wonderful, fabulous guest today. But for those of you who are watching today for the first time or listening for the first time, I'm Julia Hickman. I am the creator and founder of the Fashionista online studio. I have a free community called the Fit Femmes Tribe, and my online studio is the Fashionista online studio, where I work with busy female professionals and entrepreneurs, and I help them make fitness and healthy living something that improves rather than consumes their lives. So today, Marisa Santoro is my guest. Marisa is a TEDx speaker. She is an author. She's a career coach. She has accomplished many, many things. I'm going to let her tell us more. But I really wanted to talk to her about leadership with her today, because a lot of you watching or listening, you guys are busy professionals working corporate jobs or even entrepreneurs, and we can all learn more about how to show up for ourselves better, how to stand out from others so that we are seen and we are appreciated, and how to really take our careers or our work to the next level so that it fulfills us, right? Because we can do it in so many ways, but in ways that also drain us. But we want to learn from Marisa the better way of doing this. So Marisa, welcome. Thank you for being my guest today. Tell us a little more about yourself and how you got started with all that you do.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to be here. You're actually the first host I've sat down with on the health side. So, it's not often talked about, at least in my world, because I'm a career leadership coach and business coach, but, healthy body, healthy mind, right? So, a little bit about me. I was in the financial services, Wall Street area arena for 20 years. I was an IT executive when I left, and fast forward, a couple of years, almost 10 years now, I started a career and coaching practice called In Our Shoes, and then later an online school called Gutsy Leadership Academy, which was really just meant to do one thing: to empower professionals to lead from their instincts, from their intuition, in order to gain influence. And, at the time, even now, I'm not so sure, but, at the time, I definitely felt this was a message that was a little too woo-woo. I didn't even use the word intuition. I would use the word instinct, because I noticed men always said instinct and women talked about intuition. And I just felt like, well, I have to be mainstream. So, but really it was the same. It's the same thing. When you think about sports or, even in the military, right, they have to use their instincts. It's no different in career. So I started a Gutsy leadership platform, which is basically focused on leading with your gut and making gutsy moves. And that really does all stem from the mind-body connection. So I'm really excited to talk about that from a different perspective, in that body health way.
Yes, wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about what it means to you to work on your mind muscle. How does somebody do that so that they build on those leadership skills that they're looking to improve?
Yeah, the fastest path to really building your mind is basically being aware of the words that you're telling yourself. It's the internal dialogue. Mm-hmm. And I think in business, whether you're an entrepreneur running a business or intrapreneur, in an organization, I've been both. I know you've been both as well.
Yeah.
It's not, we tend to focus so much on speaking, and that's important, right? We want to sound right. We want the right words. We have to recite the right script, and that's all important. I don't undervalue that. You have to sell yourself, right? But what I found that was always most important is the internal dialogue and what you're telling yourself first, the conversation going on in your own mind. And so in order to strengthen that muscle, what I found is to literally change the conversations that are going in that you're telling yourself. And it goes with practice. There are exercises that you can do. I'll share a couple with you today. We'll just use, I like to talk a lot about hidden victim language. And I'm not saying we all try to make ourselves a victim, but if you feel overwhelmed or if you feel depressed, these are all common human emotions, right? We can get them whenever they show up. You can say to yourself or to your husband or to your kids or your friends, I'm feeling depressed today. I feel overwhelmed. I feel depressed, right? Well, believe it or not, through the ED at the end of those words, overwhelmed and depressed, right? There's a little ED at the end. If you were to say that to yourself versus saying, I am overwhelming myself by not saying no to others, by not pushing back and protecting my time, I am overwhelming myself, or I am depressing myself by not fully expressing how sad I am, or, just changing a simple word from ED to ING, you actually recognize your power of choice. And that you're actually doing this to yourself and you have power, and we don't always recognize our power. We always feel like things are being done to us, but in reality, we actually create our own circumstances in that way. So that's one simple way. I also talk about, in little ways, we give up our power with others where, let's say someone asks you to do them a favor and you commit to it. And then something else comes up and, even at the time you agree to do something for someone, you realize that you're kind of stretching yourself and you're not setting boundaries. And so energetically that lowers first of all, it lowers your integrity because now you're honoring somebody else and their time and their agenda before your own because you want to be nice, right? Which is a whole other topic I like to talk about, the people pleasing phenomenon that women especially deal with, right? People pleasing. But, and so by even saying in a simple conversation, yes, I will commit to do that, or I'll have that back for you in a week, knowing full well that you're sacrificing an hour or two of your own time and letting your own stuff go by the wayside. In that moment, it's a great example of demonstrating how we give away our power for approval, for people pleasing. And so, even in that way, changing the conversation and the intention that you have for yourself, if you wake up in the morning and you have an intention to spend, a block of time working on whatever you need to work on, and then you give it up by saying these things to others, then that's lost time. But it doesn't happen unless you have the conversation in your own mind, that dialogue, right, where you really intend to stay focused, the power of focus, right, on what you want. And then another great example, which I'm sure if everybody on this podcast listening in has experienced, if not in the last hour, where you're on a call with someone or you're checking in with someone and you say, hey, I'm just checking in. I'm just calling to see how you're doing, right? That little word just has just diluted your value because in your mind, you're thinking, wow, I don't want to inconvenience you. I'm sorry I'm bothering you. Do you have 5 seconds just to give to me? As if their time is more valuable than yours. Again, giving away the power. So if you just remove the word just and you say, hi, how's it going? I'm checking in to see how things are, or catch me up. Just removing, little languages like that, words in our language, we really do reclaim our power and own our authority. But it comes with practice, and it really starts with that internal conversation.
The internal dialogue. I love it. And yeah, you're so right. And as you were saying it, changing ED to ING, I was thinking to myself, like, what are some things that I've said in the past few weeks? Because let's be honest, 2021 has been off to kind of a rocky start for most of us, right? But instead of saying like I am stressed,
Right.
I'm having a stressful day, or this is a stressing moment. This is a stressing situation I'm in. So you're sort of detaching yourself from that emotion, like, yes, you have that emotion, you feel it, but it's not you. It's not like a part of you. It's just something that is going through you at the moment that you can release. So I think that is, yeah, you're so right. And that's a very powerful thing to be aware of and to put into practice. And there was something else that you mentioned now. Let me see if I can remember. You mentioned something else about
keeping agreements and giving away your time. Yeah.
Yes, giving away our time. And it's funny because I actually had a check-in with one of my clients this morning, and she was telling me how she feels like, now that she's working at home, and I'm sure she's not the only one. I'm sure this is happening. I know my husband too probably goes through this. But people who normally go to an office to work, now they're at home. There's no, there's less boundaries, right? Because you're surrounded by your work at all times. So there's that need, maybe not need, but there's that like feeling like you have to keep working, because if you're not always checking your email or not always like logging in and answering whatever, then people are going to think that you're not really working, like everybody else is on, but you're not on as much. So there's that like sense like you have to keep up, you have to do more and more and more, because otherwise you're going to look bad. What do you think of that?
You hit the very last words. You hit the nail on the head. I'm going to look bad. So there are 3 fears that drive human behavior, major fears. They're not the list is like, limitless, but there are 3 major fears that drive our behavior. And the major fears are the fear of looking foolish, the fear of rejection, and the fear of failure. And in that example, it's the fear of, of looking bad, looking foolish, right? You don't want to be the only one that's not online. And in business, you have to manage the perception. You have to. You might be the most confident person in the world. And I apply this to myself, right? Like, people would look at me and say, oh, you had this great career, Wall Street executive, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it sounds great on paper. But, I didn't always come out of the box that way. I felt like I came out of, was confident in my what I knew, but I wasn't always projecting myself that way. I had to manage the perception of how I was, how I was showing up in any type of conversation. And I think that's important, especially now, because now you're not in person. It's strictly online. Yes, video is there, but voice inflections are more sensitive, right? If someone raises their voice, you're like, oh, what do they mean by that? Were they being sarcastic, or were they just you wouldn't catch that in a regular one-on-one, right? So it's so important to really be aware of the conversation. That's why I said early on, being aware of the conversation that you want to have before you show up in any circumstance, so that no one can really shake you down. And I really mean that. Like, no one can bring you down. You're a palm tree, right? You'll bend, but you won't break. So, and I also tell people, it's, relating to mind and body, before you go into any conversation, really give yourself a couple of affirmations of how you want to show up. Like in your example, when you're on Zoom or online, virtually, you really want to show up confident. Maybe you want to show up like you're at ease, you're laughing. So give yourself a couple of affirmations before that conversation. Like, I am, kicking back with ease, speaking to my clients, or I'm laughing with my clients. I am, just enjoying some casual time, right? Even doing this podcast, right? You set the intention for me as a host. You want your podcast guests to feel relaxed around you, right? You set that intention for yourself, and you set the bar for me as well. So that's leadership, right? Even in the tiny little things that you say to others. So yeah, I agree completely. There is absolutely no start and end to the day. There was no end to the 2020. It just rolled into 2021, and it's hard. Yeah, you got to keep those boundaries.
Definitely. So I wanted to go back to your concept of leading with instinct and intuition. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means? And I'm sure we have men watching and listening as well. So you can, feel free to call out the men as well. But yeah, tell us what that means. Tell us how you would empower somebody to lead with instinct and intuition.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people think that a lot of people think that this is not, something you can grasp, right? Because it's the sixth sense. We can't see it. We can't feel it. But in reality, intuition is more present than any of our other 5 senses. And the way you really tap into it, the fastest path to really, knowing that a decision is right for you, is to ask yourself, am I feeling nervous and excited at the same time? What I found for myself and for those I've coached is that when those two emotions coexist, there's like a little trepidation and a little excitement, and it feels good, but it feels nervous. You feel aligned, and so you have to go for that, right? You have to just go for broke and follow that. It wasn't random. If, however, you feel like there's more fear involved, like maybe a fear of getting fired or a fear of looking, saying something the wrong way, right? In leadership, we're always worried about, we're communicators, right? We have to say things to support others, and we don't want them to be misconstrued. If there's a real fear, if your emotions are more leaning in the fear direction and not in the faith and not in the excitement, then that decision is going to cause your body to tighten up, right? That's why we say we're too uptight. Like, there's a reason for that. Our body tightens up. We become uptight because we're stuck and frozen in a fear versus, faith. And so, but when you have that little excitement, it's like that roller coaster ride when you're at the top, like you're nervous, but you're excited at the same time. And something good is on the way if you just make that decision. So that's one way. The second way, it's sort of a two-step formula. The second way is when you have a random thought that comes out of nowhere, and it has to be from some mindless activity, like doing the dishes, sweeping the floor, getting undressed for the night, whatever it is. When you have a random thought, totally out of the blue, and it just makes you straighten up and be like, where was that from, right? You're like, was that a voice or something? You're just like, the fact that it's so silent actually catches you by surprise. When you feel that impulse, right, you want to act on it right away. And it has to be right away, like within the next couple of minutes. Because what happens is that we have like a great idea, and then like we'll talk ourselves out of it, so that same energy that you had, that impulse, our instinctive thought, doesn't have the same energy surrounding and support system as it does an hour ago. And so when you have that thought, you want to call the client that could take your business to the next level, or call that person, or email someone. You want to act on it quick. And I know time doesn't really seem like it's such a big deal. But if you believe in energy and you believe that we are, scientifically, we know that we are only matter, right? We're only atoms. If you believe that, then you have to follow the law of physics and act on those thoughts, because they are real and they're not random. So, I have lots to say about intuition. But for your listeners, I really think just taking those couple of guidance tools, I think you'll really find that you'll start to trust yourself, and you'll start to trust your decisions.
I love that. And it's so true, right? Sometimes we get those great ideas. Like, I usually get them when I'm running. I'll get like a really good idea. Or sometimes I'll get an idea like in the middle of the night when I'm like trying to fall asleep. I'm like, oh, wow. And it's like, okay, I got to write it down, because otherwise I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget like some small detail. But I didn't think of it. Like, you're so right. Sometimes we have to act like, if it's something that, if it's like making a decision, then it's like, yes, you need to act on it. Also because and we've seen this with, the greats, like Steve Jobs, right? They say like he always wore the same thing, every day pretty much, because that was one less decision that he had to make. He was more interested in making like the big decisions, the real game changers. He didn't really care about the little nuances of like, okay, what should I wear today? It was just like, okay, whatever, because he was spending his time and using his energy to focus on things that were really going to drive things. So I think it kind of goes with what you were saying, but I love it. I love how you made a point to say that, we're energy. So you like, yeah, if you have this great idea, if it's something that's in you, that is something you want to try out, you're a little scared, but you're also excited, that's probably like a very good sign that you should go for it, right?
Yes.
One of the biggest regrets people have is usually that they didn't do something. So here you have encouragement from Marisa and I to go for it. Go for it, whatever it is that you're thinking about, that you've been overthinking about, just go do it.
The overthinking is really key. I'm glad you said that, because what happens is when we overthink, reason and logic overpower the gut instinct. So it's that rational side of our brain that is like, the inner crow. What are you talking about? Ego comes in. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? But when you act on the instincts immediately, the logic brain doesn't have a chance, right? Yeah. It's a lot more noisier. So that's why the timing is so important. So in your example, Julia, if you are in the middle of the night and you have an idea, yes, write it down. But I have gotten up in the middle of the night and I've sent emails. As long as it doesn't seem weird, like I don't want people seeing an email from me at 4 a.m. I might just write it, draft it, and save it. But at least in motion, you know, when you wrote that email, there's energy attached to that email. You can hit send the next day, or even writing it on your pad. I believe even sending out marketing postcards, anything, you know, you put in the actual physical action of mailing a letter, that's energy that people feel. I used to send out years ago, free CDs. I have a 101 ways to communicate with confidence at work. And I have an audio leadership program around it. And back then I used to send out CDs, and I'd send out CDs to everywhere, India, Europe, whoever wanted the CD, I'd send it out. And a lot of people say, Marisa, is anyone really going to listen to the CD? I said, you know what? I don't care if they listen to the CD. They receive the CD, and they're going to get it in their hand, and they're going to feel something when they see something from me. Yeah. And that's all I care about. It's not about the CD. It's about energy.
Yeah, so, I love that. Yeah. That's wonderful. Let's tell everybody where they can go so they can learn more about you. I know you have an exciting announcement. You have a book coming out. So tell us more about it. We're going to be sharing all the links. We're done here.
Yeah, and actually, I should be getting some good author discounts. So I'll pass those on to you in the group, Julia, once I find out. I'm a new author, so I'm learning a lot, but I do know I get some discounts. My book is called Own Your Authority, and it's about following your instincts as a business leader, both intrapreneur and entrepreneur. It's being published by McGraw-Hill, and it is available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon in multiple languages right now, but it doesn't release until April 27th. So I'll share those links with you, and also I have some really good free things that I'm going to be giving away once the book launches. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, you'll have to come back and tell us about those freebies so we can keep helping you with the book. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. The book is called Own Your Authority, and your website is it's inrshoes.com, in our shoes with the letter R. And yeah, that's probably the best way you could find me. Great. Well, thank you so much, Marisa. Thank you for spending some time this morning, this snowy morning here in New Jersey. And if anybody has any questions for us, feel free to leave us a comment. If you're listening to the podcast, please leave us a review. We would love to know what you thought of this episode, and we'll see you all again next time.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Femmes movement. I would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, so please leave us a review. And sharing is caring. If you know someone who may benefit from this episode, please share it with them. We need more women up-leveling to their highest selves with grace, courage, and ease. If you'd like to connect with me more and have access to free live trainings and join a community of hundreds of other amazing women, then join my free Facebook group, the Fit Femmes Tribe.